Hello and welcome to the Prospect Blueprint, the podcast that helps student athletes, their parents, coaches, and others that support them to chart out their best options to get to the next level, whatever that next level might be. My battery mate is, as always, is none other than Rick Dempsey, 24-year MLB vet with the Twins, Yankees, Brewers, Orioles, and Dodgers, not to mention the 1983 World Series MVP. Rick, how you doing?
Thanks. I'm good, Cal. I'm ready to rock and roll, man. It's an exciting day today.
Well,
We got
we're
a
gonna
coach that has experience and a ton of wins, and I'm looking forward to talking to him.
and here's his bio because it's pretty good. And everyone does this. I actually watched one podcast that coaches, I know Coach has been on several of them, and so I'm going to try to make this a little bit different. But the guy's credentials are unbelievable. So, recorded his 500th victory as the Billikens head coach and concluded the season with 516 wins in 17 seasons at SLU. Last year, SLU, we call it SLU. Last year, he won 37 games. I thought you were going to take the title, to be honest with you. Concluded last season with 1,006 wins in 29 seasons as a head coach, which puts him in the top 25. He is St. Louis's all-time winningest head coach, has coached 11 MLB draft picks at SLU, and has posted 6 seasons of 35 or more wins. Last year was certainly one of them. It's just a matter of time before he's a bronze statue at SLU, straight up. Coach Darin Hendrickson is here. Coach, welcome.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm ready to talk some baseball tonight.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, man. You're a week away from the start of the season. You know, we know your credentials. We're going to get into them a little bit. But I want to know what your ball club looks right now. You got a lot of young guys. The game has changed. We're going to get into that too. But you must have some position battles, some standout players and stuff. What do you got hidden under the old sleeves right now?
Well, I just need to make sure you guys aren't on St. Mary's payroll right now and going to have a scouting report. I'm kind of Belichicking it right now, but
Uh-oh.
All right.
I might be in trouble on that one, but just don't give us too many secrets.
No. Hey, listen, they may know more about our club than I do. It's like Rick mentioned, 21 new guys is unfortunately the new reality in college baseball, and I don't like it, of course. I don't think anybody loves it, but it's what we are, and we adapt and move forward. And last year we did it, and we had a heck of a team, and the portal was good to us, but we still try to do it with homegrown guys, and I think that's kind of where it starts. If you look at our four top arms that are returning, all returners, excuse me, are all guys that were here last year, part of the run, part of the A10 tournament run. With those guys, and I think there's so many new faces out there on the mound that there's a lot of arm talent, but as you guys know, kids are training vastly differently. It trickles down from the major league level, of course, with starters going less innings, pitchers, are more compartmentalized 2 and 3 inning guys, and so we got a bunch of those. So I was a former pitcher. I could imagine having to tell my coach I'm done after 2 or 3 innings. You can tell I'm showing my age a little, but I'm not that old either, so I wish it would come back a little bit. But that's where it starts for us. But positionally, we've got a few guys back. Hayden Moore's our table setter at the top, and Ethan Sitzman is back as well, our second baseman. Those guys are key part of our last 2 years, and returning players. And then we've actually got Mark McGuire's son. You might have heard of Mark McGuire. I'm sure you have. His son is going to be an integral part of this somewhere as far as how it goes. He was at Oklahoma and San Diego, so like everybody, bounced around a little bit now. And then Indiana State transfer is, a guy that's going to probably fill in. And then our third baseman's back, so we're going to mix and match it. Catching's going to be brand new, which always scares me. Rick, obviously, you
Yeah.
probably need to come over here, and you might be our second string right now, not our first or third, but you're certainly a guy that we'd love to have your knowledge to help our guys. We got a lot of new guys back there, so we're just we are a work in progress right now, honestly, and it's not
Yeah.
being coy or anything. You know that. You can just look at our roster.
I hope, Coach, that you just don't go to what you see at the major league level. Every catcher going to one knee, letting the running game just take control of everything. I don't like that sort of thing. I will tell any owner, general manager, right to his face, that's going to help you lose more ball games than it is going to help you win. But you've been at it for 15 years already, and you put up some really big numbers. Those are the kind of numbers that a lot of players respect. Um, how do you manage to keep that job uh, or even want the job? Because it's got to be wearing you down after a while. And especially in today's game, you have to make some changes in the way your approach is now.
Yeah, it's hard. It's I can't you can't fool kids and fool people, but I had the privilege of throwing batting practice here for 27 years to the Cardinals, big league club. Obviously, you're in a baseball town here, so you're a fool if you don't sponge off of the knowledge you're able to get on a daily
Yeah.
basis with that. And Tony La Russa used to say, when you're done, you got to get out because you can't cheat the game and you can't cheat the guys. And I always remember that. I was a 30-year-old nobody trying to figure this out, and I remember being around him. I worshiped what that Cardinal organization was all about,
Yep.
and it's all we knew. We were very spoiled here, so I kind of stole a lot of their stuff. You always hear it in my interviews and talks, but my gosh, what a great crutch to lean on to listen to that. So I think when you look at today's game, um, I don't know where it's going, and that's scary. I do think that there's a lot of uncertainties with, when I see Tennessee win the World Series and they're playing Wake or, Vandy's out there. I mean, to me, that's double A baseball in some ways. It's
Yeah.
not college baseball anymore. I don't think so. I don't say anymore. I'm just mean the game's changed. And that's good. It's also good. It's got some guys some chances too, but I do think that, when you got a slew of 24-year-olds and you got to build culture right away in the fall, or else you're going to have a lot of, it's going to look like an independent team somewhat too.
Are you thinking about making a lot of changes in the way that you do things there at your school? Over the last 20, 30 years, the game has changed so much now. You had a great example with the St. Louis Cardinals were always one of the strongest organizations in all of baseball. You have to give them the credit because, they won a lot of ball games. They developed a lot of great players. I know you're hoping to do that sort of a thing now, but you got to pull some rabbits out of the hat, as time goes by. How do you feel about that?
Well, that's the hardest part of the job. I mean, there's two things about the job that I've always said that are most important things, and that's recruiting and scheduling. And you got to figure out the balance of the schedule. Recruiting is, look, all of us know baseball, whatever. You're not going to outcoach the other guy in the dugout anymore. Sometimes you've got to have the horses, as you know. I mean, we've got to adjust and probably get a few more transfers, and our schools got to help us with that too. A lot of the schools out there, Rick and Kelly. I mean, when you're seeing this in the new world, a lot of schools aren't equipped for a bunch of transfers. Some don't have grad school. We had three arms in the grad school portal last year that were huge for us because we have a great graduate school. So there's a niche that we have and we've got to use, and we just have to figure out the way to do it. And that's it. I mean, there's no feel sorry for yourself or whatever, but the bottom line for me is I was talking with a fellow coach in the league today, and we were talking about what if we put an all-star team of the Atlantic 10 up in a regional as a 4 seed against a 1 right now? What would that even look like? Will we even have a chance? And the answer is we don't know, but I mean, like the depth is just such a difference maker. So for us, going to the 34-man roster next year may help us, but you can't miss in recruiting. If you got
Yeah.
dead weight on your bench in the 34-man roster, you're in trouble. And that could be injury, that could be coming in with injury. So many players come in injured and they don't know it, and they get hurt when they're pushing it through the fall, and that's a big problem too, because that shrinks your roster massively. And you need a utility guy like the big leagues where you put the 25th guy on there that can do a lot of different things, as far as plays different positions. I mean, it's kind of like a blend of it all, Major League
Yeah.
Baseball and college baseball, but it's still fun. I still love the players, and I love the competition and getting better. And it's going to be a rocky, wild start this year I have no idea how we're going to do. Last year, I knew we had a good team. I was always Lou Holtz. I would never, ever say we were great. But last year, I really thought we had a really good team. Like there was no chinks in our armor early, and we led wire to wire, and we just fell on our face in the tournament. But this year, it's just the Wild West for us.
Yeah, I think last year, Jordan Jaffe, he's out from around us over here, over at Richmond. He had a couple home runs. I'm friends with his dad, so I
Yeah.
get these texts and all. Um, What was your WTF moment when the portal became, when you realized that this portal is going to just open up a whole can of worms? I got to know and you knew that your sleep, your share of sleep was going to be substantially reduced.
I'll tell you what, it's a great question because I really can tell you the answer to this almost to the days, but I was in the summer and I just kept saying to myself, I don't think we've had a day off. I don't think we've stopped. And this isn't like we're breakneck recruiting all over the country, like some of the big boys have to do. But for our level, we were trying to keep our kids. We were trying, and for me, the real problem with some of this is third parties. And not to get preachy about it, but the whole third party thing is, there's so many kids that if they would just stay where they're at and things will work out for them. And I know it's easy for me to say that. I'm not trying to be an old school coach, old coach. I'm really not. I just can do case study after case study about this portal world, but it's got two sides of it. Coaches benefit from it tremendously. I mean, we can basically get a free agent, and that makes it really interesting because you're not having to go through player development for 4 years, and when you've won a lot, you don't want to have a rebuilding year, and you don't want to say rebuild. But I do think the summer when that had opened, and I realized that it was already August, and we were still recruiting like. You
That's
almost are
late.
recruiting in three cycles. You're recruiting in the fall, then you're
Mhm.
kind of, you bring kids on campus throughout the fall and winter, and then you're playing and you're recruiting your assistants are out off campus, obviously, and then summer's obviously a madhouse. There was no downtime anymore. And I don't know that that's good for fathers and husbands and dads. And I know we all sign up for it all, but just in general. But it's certainly not good for the kids, in all honesty, in some ways. But it's here to stay. And I don't mean the portal's a bad thing. I think every case is different. Like it's not going to be on me to get up here and go. But I don't like these coaches that get on these podcasts and go, "Oh, I'm all for the portal and I'm all for kids getting paid and I'm all for this," and they're not for any of it. I'm kind of like I'm going to wear my emotions on my sleeve with you and tell you the truth and think that it's probably more bad than good because there's a lot of unemployed players at the end of the summer when the portal's done. But I just think kids are getting bad information about where they fit. And the biggest thing, it's just like the big leagues too, you know, people are being rushed. We're in a fast-paced society and we're getting rushed to the coaches are impatient. We want to win. Players are impatient. They want to play, you know, and I think everybody's, if they don't get out there and, get on the field, and our tolerance level for any type of growth or frustration or failure is almost zero right now
Yeah.
as a society, right? And I sound like I'm being a preacher here. I'm sorry, but I really mean that. I think that all of my best guys were program guys that came in and, we had an 11th round pick last year. They got 9 at bats at a Big Ten school, his first 2 years. He's 11th round pick. I mean, how's that happen? And we didn't do anything different. He got to play.
Yeah, he got to
I
play.
mean, coached him a little bit, but he got to play and he took advantage. And so my point is if kids would just kind of hang through this and fight, but I don't want to go there. It's just tough for me because I got 2 boys and I still treat these kids like, hey, this is the way I want my son's done. So
Yeah.
kind of a
Well,
long answer.
but you know what? It makes sense. I have a couple that have been in the portal that may have to go. But the point being is that everyone, and we know so many of them. I work with the Chicago Cub Scout team as well,
Hmm.
and we take teams back and forth from Japan. But we talk to a lot of kids, a lot of coaches, and I'll tell you, there's a different story for every one of them has their own journey, and you can understand, why some leave. But it's a problem. And now this is what I wanted to bring up was we've got this JUCO situation where those who were going to be pretty much aged out, graduated out this year, who had played JUCO get another year. There's some that
Yeah.
have 2 years that, now you've got the 24-year-old. But what does that do to the high school prospect? Because as a coach, a guy who's relying on that paycheck, you want to win ball games, you want to bring in as many fully formed players as possible. That would be my assumption. Now we're going to have guys playing who are 22, 23 years old. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad idea because they have a better chance at maturing, becoming better players, and maybe getting a chance to get paid. Thoughts?
Well, interesting topic because it's been a hot topic of discussion. I'd say as a former player, junior college was the best thing that ever happened to me. I went from, no Division I offers to 5 out of JUCO. And literally, that doesn't, but my point is it was about maturity. It was about physically getting better, bigger, whatever. And then just being ready and it's like, it's your time. And sometimes the light just needs to click for that. But what we keep doing is kicking the can down the road for the class of 25 and 26. And those high school kids are getting squeezed and everybody keeps saying, oh, it'll work itself out. Well, it's not working itself out because people are getting waivers left and right everywhere. Then they're finding a loophole and they're finding a lawyer and they're finding this. And it's just going, it's still ending up with an old person's game. So that there, if you're the parent and you got a visceral emotional tie to a class of 25 or 26, you see this thing through a whole different lens, Kelly, than you do if you're the college coach who literally doesn't call 125 kid and he does all transfers. And there's a lot of schools in the Midwest that have gone to that lately. And I'm just curious to see how that culturally fits. But I get it. They're, like you said, they're trying to save their jobs. They want to keep their jobs and they want to win. I mean, we're competitive people. That's our DNA. And so that's why I'm not on here to go one side or the other. It's so complex. We could do 5 hours of this, but I do think in my heart of hearts, I still like the old JUCO deal but that's the way I was raised too. So I don't know if that's even a possibility. The other problem with JUCO baseball right now, especially in the Midwest, a lot of the places have cut back and their coaches are not full time. So you got a guy that is maybe teaching school, might be doing something else off campus. He's not around. He's not there to watch film. He's not there to develop. And these are some powerhouse programs, 5 years ago even. And so how much investment's really being made there too? So it's just muddy waters, man. It's a tough deal. So I wish I had an answer because I'd quit coaching and try to solve all these problems.
Interesting. It's an interesting time. Rick, you're up.
Derek, I'm curious about your pitching and your catching. You're not going to win a lot of ball games unless they're pretty good players. That's what will take you into the season a lot longer than even the hitting. I know you're probably going to get some pretty good hitters, but talk a little bit about you and your staff and how you're going to approach getting the pitchers ready and having a nice catcher. Do you have a good catcher at that position ready to roll for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's where it starts, Rick, as you mentioned. We've got, really 3 new guys that are going to be back there. California, Orange Coast kid, JT Crabb. And then we've got an NAIA transfer that's a grad student from Hawaii, Ehu Sanchez, and then Patrick Mendiola is back on our team as well. And so we've got, I think, between those 3 guys, we'll have enough, to probably mix and match. The problem on the mound, it's a short term and then it's a long term, but we've got a 4-game set to open the season. And, blame me for the schedule, but to cover 36 innings, now that's assuming you got to go bad or get them out in the bottom of the 9th on the road. So that's still, a lot of lifts, but you know what I'm getting at, 34 to 36 innings. You've got to have, when you're only allowed to take 27 people at your school, 14 arms, 13 position players, whatever. You kind of go, okay, who's going to give us what at the start of February, and I think our staff is such a work in progress. I mean, if you look at our roster, if you call up our roster, which I'm sure you have it, it's, new guy, and transfer. Seton Hall kids, 2 kids there, the San Diego kid, Chase Miner. And so we do a lot of West Coast recruiting, as you know, and I think we've got such 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 inning guys after about 4 or 5. It's really, we had a drafted guy in the bullpen last year. So us and St. Mary's look a little bit alike to start the season, but we've got to get it whittled down to, I would project probably 2 starters and then a bunch of, Owen Kelly's a real guy at the front. He's a guy that's got a chance. He'll go to Cape this summer, and he's got lights out stuff, and he really came on last year. He's a freshman or sophomore from the Midwest here, and then we've got a guy back that was injured last year, Ben Cherico. and the Weber brothers, I think, are going to help us a lot. So where I'm telling you this is like I'm not trying to be funny, but I've got 10 guys that I've never seen throw, and that's a first, for
Yeah.
sure. And to get it down, I think by playing 4 games though, you get them all in, and you see it. For me, it's a little bit like spring training, uh, at the start of the year for me. I don't want to say it like that, like it doesn't count or it doesn't matter, but you can't doctor this up and dress it up like we just aren't proven. And when there's a hitter in there, it's a lot different than when there's a controlled environment and you're in the laboratory or you're in your pitching coach's driveway and he's taking your money to get you better each time. And then this is a different animal. When you put a hitter in there, guys they are different deals. So we're going to see a lot and learn a lot, but I'm really excited because I think if we can get a lot out of this team, it's going to be a hell of a reward for our coaching staff, for sure.
I've got a question. It's about the division, but first I want to ask this because I think a lot of kids want to know, and that would have something to do with scholarship players. If a guy's got a scholarly and he's got some experience, and if there's another kid on the roster, maybe it's a freshman, maybe it's a transfer, whatever. Do you lean towards giving that kid with a scholarship and that experience? I mean, it's almost like a rhetorical question almost. Do you lean towards giving them the start, the not, hey, we need some experience out on the field? So, I know I recruited this guy, but I've got this senior who's got all. What's your take on that and how you approach a season and a game, putting some experienced players in there, especially when, you've got a lot of freshmen or just people that you don't even know because you got 21 new guys.
Yeah, it's funny. You think you get this game figured out, and then they drop the portal on you, and then you are relearning how to coach, and you're relearning how to manage your roster. But the 9 best play for me. It's not a secret. It's not anybody who's ever played here can tell you that. And everyone's going to say that, of course. But I think that for me, it's just it's a case by case deal too at our school. We have a lot of academic aid, which helps us. We're a very good academic school. And we're like a mirror of St. Mary's, for instance. We're a mirror of Gonzaga, Loyola Marymount, those kind of places out there. So I do think that, we've got to get the right type of kid that fits our whole mold across the board. And I think that when you're looking at where this is going, if it's going to go to scout, I mean, most of our kids get some type of help. Now, obviously with the 34 roster cap, that's even going to get, probably more of an assurance. I mean, it's 2025 and it's more of an economic decision too. You make business decisions in college now. And then no, don't even, we haven't even talked about NIL, which is,
we were gonna
the other elephant in the room.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the A10 because that's where you live. Which teams do you think are going to give you guys the biggest run for your money, considering that there are a lot of teams that have had a big turnover of rosters?
Wow. I mean, when I looked at the summer wire and I saw Dayton lost their coach and literally their entire team, and they've always been that's kind of our natural rival geographically. We're close to them. But I think that VCU is always to be reckoned with. It's a state school. It's very cheap to go there. It's the only one in our league that's really that cheap. But they do a heck of a job. I don't say that with any animosity or anything. It's just they can get a different type of deal there. And they've run us down. We used to be the 1 or 2 of the league every year, and they've run us down, and I give them full credit. And but I'm doing my best with our parameters, and I love our culture, and on and on. So you can't feel sorry for yourself. You got to keep chopping at the tree. And I think that, I think there's some surprises in our league this year, but I think we're all going to look alike when you look over at the other dugout and who makes the fewest mistakes. If you look around basketball and you watch football this year, which is how I learned too, I watched the cross sport thing. I think there's a lot of the parity's insane. I mean, when you're looking at even the blue bloods in college basketball right now, they can't repeat each night, and winning on the road's really hard. We're the only team in the league that flies everywhere except Dayton. So in the month of April, we've got 3 flights. I think Davidson will be back. I think they were down last year, but they're a team I respect a lot. And I think Mason, Sean Camp does a great job with getting them a little, they were pretty darn good last year. I just don't know a lot about some of our teams because of literally all of the league's best players. We went around and did the math. All of the league's best players last year, and really the biggest hit team was St. Joe's. They were loaded, guys. I know people don't know a lot about that, but I respect the hell out of their coach and what they do at that deal. But they had an unbelievable athletic old team, and he got wiped out. Like they lost everyone to the draft or portal. So we all kind of, that's why I say we look alike. And the Bonnies have a guy throwing 100 on Friday night. It's legit. And you're like, geez, how do you prepare for that? Well, you don't play a night game, so we're going to bump it to 3. But
Smart.
I don't want to see him under the lights at 100. But no, it's fun, man, because I truly don't know. I did the poll today. I did the preseason poll today, just at 4:00, and I was throwing names in a hat. It's just different times, it's all good. So
somebody asked me to ask you when that's coming out.
We just got it today, so I would say in the next couple of days here, it was due by the end of the day tomorrow. So I would say maybe Friday or next week early. They usually release it the week of play.
Rick, any last words, other questions?
Well,
we should talk about
like
NIL. Let's real quick. We've got about 5 more minutes left. Well, go ahead, Rick. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just I'll get some comparisons at the major league level. I know right now it seems it's tough. You're scrambling around to find your infield. It was always my words that you really needed a strong defensive team to save your pitching staff. That's the way Earl Weaver always tried to set it up. The fundamentals were so important to him. I'm sure they are to you because you don't win as many games as I'm looking at right here, over 1,000 games, unless you had some idea about defense. Major League Baseball has forgotten all about defense. They don't care about having runners at second base. The commissioner and all of the baseball people, they want scores 10-9 and 12-5, all that kind of stuff. I don't believe in it myself. I had some philosophies about the game. I'm sure you've got some too, about how and when to give up to the biggest hitters and what you want to do. You want to give them the base hit, get them out of the way. All they're doing is setting up the double play for you. But you got to have an infield that's capable of doing that. And I've always said the fastball down and away is always something that's going to get you out of trouble as long as you don't leave it on the plate too much. You give the big boys the ground ball base hit on the opposite way and then go after the other guys, and we did pretty successful. I want to say a little something about you've got one of the sons of a great major league power hitter, and we played him in the 1988 World Series, and McGuire actually made it pretty easy to pitch to him because of that big wide open stance. He gave up the outside half of the plate because I saw the practice swings go right down the middle of the inside half. We kept it away. Get those catchers to read those hitters as quick as you can get them. Make them pay attention to the game, and it'll save you a lot of headaches in the long run. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, what I was saying, Rick, about our defense, though, our defensive piece is been pivotal to us. As a former pitcher, I put a lot of stock in that. I hired a hitting coach always that I wanted to be smarter than me on the offensive side, which wasn't very hard, and just run with it. And then I always see the game. I always say people see the game differently by what position they played. And I see the game from defensive side all the time. And I called pitches for 20 years. I know you don't like that, Rick, but we don't have Rick Dempsey behind the plate. So we have to take some of that out of our kids' hands. But I did it for 20 years, and now our pitching coach does it. He does a great job. And what I would say to you is, I see us we used to beat people through defense. And like you said, they'd have DHs playing out of position. And, the big leagues now, the old adage is, there's some teams that put stock in it, though. I still say run prevention's everything. I looked today, and we only gave up 286 runs last year, and that was 65 less than the second place team in our league. And I started looking through every conference to see what their runs against were. Now, that's maybe a biased statement based on schedule, number of games, all that, but you know what I'm getting at. That's a lot of difference in runs given up. Mm-hmm. Some of it's park adjusted, of course. Like, I don't think the Rockies are going to give up less runs than, the Padres or somebody that plays in a canyon, the Giants and deeper parks. But you know what I'm getting at with that. So
Yeah.
that's a big thing for me. We've always had, the best run we had at St. Louis, we had the same shortstop, 2 different shortstops for 7 years. One played 3 and was signed with Tampa Bay, and the other one played 4 and was signed with Arizona. My point is that that's 7 years of the same 2 guys at shortstop. You want to talk about continuity, stability. That makes you a good coach. When you have people like that, and that stability just up the middle and the calming presence. So I'm in your camp on that.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for stopping by, but of course, now since I know you're in St. Louis, so Coach, who's your favorite Irish pub in St. Louis?
Oh, Maggie O's all the way.
Love it, love it. We'll talk about NIL next time, but really appreciate you coming on. Really wish you a lot of luck this year, and we'll see you at LMU maybe. Rick, when are you? That's at the end of February, right?
Yeah, 28th through the 2nd of March. We're at LMU and
28th.
St. Mary's next weekend. So
I got
2 California trips.
Yeah, so I might be able to make it on the 28th. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Thank you so much for coming on board, everybody. That is Coach Darin Hendrickson. He is with SLU, St. Louis University. Thank you very much, Rick Dempsey, my podcast co-host. And everybody have season starts pretty soon. So here we go. College baseball, to me, it's the best time of the season. Take care, Coach. Everybody else.
Thanks,
have a great
guys.
week. Cheers.
Thank you.
Nice talking with you, Coach. Don't worry about it, man. You'll find a way. You will find a way.
Thanks, Rick.